Okay, Arif, the recording is on, so go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending upon where you're joining. This is Arif Mohammed. I'm a product manager for CA Test Data Manager. This is actually a first of official call, actually, WebEx, in terms of giving you the new capabilities. Some of you who actually came to CA World, you might have seen actually the work we've been doing so far. And you guys are also aware that we have, after picking up the development integrated into the grid tool development into CA processes, we've actually started the monthly development cycle where every month we are actually releasing. So basically we are much more agile now with this. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over very high level on what we have delivered in 3.2 and 3.21. We just got GA last on Friday, and then next month we have 3.22 coming. So it's continuous process which we're actually going to continue doing that. And if you are interested, you can actually join our validation, customer validation, which basically would give you the access to some of the validation feature which we are putting as sandbox, but would not be available to the customers who are not signed up for the validation program. So what I'm going to do, move forward, there's a little bit of a disclaimer in terms of some futuristic kind of things which we might have to discuss. So I had to put this in. And then from 3.2, as you can see, where the main goal in the past quarter was actually twofold, actually threefold. One is integrations, and on integration side, virtual services or CA Service Virtualization is one of the key capability. We think that combining CA Service Virtualization and CA Test Data Manager capabilities can actually bring a lot more value putting those products together. So that's where we actually spent a lot of time, and we released that. The second integration which we actually did, as you see, the test data is for the testers, and when you are actually providing that test data to tester, you would want the tester to be the data to be available in the tool where the tester spend their time. So that's why we have integration with ALM and other tool set. And in December with 3.2, we actually released an integration with Rally as well, so that Rally users are the testers who are actually creating test cases, maintaining and managing all the test cases within Rally. They can actually integrate and link the test cases in Rally with the test data criteria in CA Test Data Management, and be able to actually have this integrated solution to manage their test data as well. So these were the two areas from an integration perspective, and the third is the second aspect we've been working in is that a lot of the testing require data to be in certain format, right? So one of the value proposition from CA Test Data Management perspective is synthetic data generation, and synthetic data generation into the relational tables is one of the key area which grid tools capabilities actually are excel in. But a lot of our customers are demanding that they would want to be able to generate that synthetic data into a particular format. And the formats examples are maybe it's copybook, EDI, XML, JSON. So grid tools, from a capabilities perspective, we have some capabilities, existing capabilities from, let's say, generating copybook for based messages or files, or mainframe flat files in general, and then we also have the capabilities, some of the EDI side as well. So with the XML and JSON was actually something which we were dependent on some third-party component. Also, what we did, we actually built this into the product as well now. So, and that's what we call as a shredder. The idea there is that we keep adding more and more of those file types. So that way, when you're testing practices where you would want to actually test a specific area of your application, and the input to that test case is a certain JSON file or XML file or EDI file or whatever it is. I mean, that's what we are going to continue doing that. That means the right data at the right place in the right format. So that's all the 3 rights which we are actually continue to work towards. So so XML and JSON is what we actually took as an important aspect. And to link with the virtual services, RR pair is actually in the next aspect of it, because a lot of the RR pairs are XML based or JSON based in any way. So we extended that to RR pair, and then by that extension, actually, we linked it to service virtualization, as we are going to show in the demonstration. We linked it with the service virtualization so that those generated RR pairs can actually be pushed into running virtual service. So that way you can actually augment your virtual services based on the real world looking data generated through the synthetic capability we have. Apart from this, in parallel, we actually continue to do improvements in terms of deployment, simplifying licensing, and then also documentation. We consolidated all the documentation to now CA's wiki-based documentation, as you've seen for service virtualization and other tool set. So, and that this actually just got GA as part of 3.21. We also added a few of the new masking capabilities, masking options, and those are also enhancement based on the customer needs we've seen. And then in 3.21, we actually also make it a little easier from the process perspective to work with the shredder. So especially the generation of the XML and JSON file. Initial releases were all through the command line, which continue, but subsequently we actually now added actions within Javelin, which is kind of a workflow engine as part of the TDM. That would allow you to automate some of those shredder processes much better. So this is, in a nutshell, what we have with 3.2 and 3.21 so far. What I'm going to do actually now, just quickly, in terms of integration, as I said, we did Rally integration, we did service virtualization integration, and CA Test Case Optimizer already had an integration which was enhanced as well to Rally. So what this gives you as from CA perspective as part of the app delivery plus what Rally provides is an end-to-end platform that actually which is integrated for your agile development teams, which is much more efficient for you from your testing practices perspective. So you start with the Test Case Optimizer, where you can actually convert your unstructured requirements from Rally, bring them into the Test Case Optimizer, make them structured requirement, put them back into Rally as test cases, as well as requirements as well, by the way. You can actually link the flows and all that. We can attach them into Rally. And then from there, you can link it to your automation frameworks to be able to automate some of those testing practices as well. And then from Rally, integrated into CA Test Data Manager, the ability to link within the Rally your test cases with the test data as well, and publish and reserve that data through the test data management integration. And then on the backend side, obviously service virtualization is one of the key part of your environment now. We were already making the consistent data in your test case input data, as well as data in the test databases. With the integration into SOE, we are also actually allowing you to integrate with virtual service so that the data is consistent across all the 3 aspects of it. One, your environment, physical environment, which is through the test databases. Second, your virtualized services, so your virtual component of your environment. And then the third, your test cases, which is where your tester is going to be using those as an input parameter. So this is a big picture in terms of the integration we have been working through, and we released as part of the 3.2 major release. And we've shown some of these actually as part of CA World if you've seen that. Just quickly on the SV and TDM side, integration side, there are 3 main use cases. There's a new virtual service you would want to create, but the recording is not an option. You just have only WSDL, you have sample, only 1 or 2 samples. Or if there's an existing virtual service which has 5 of the APIs available, but other 3 are just new, going to be built now, and you have just the specification for that. So you can utilize this capability where you can actually feed it into TDM, be able to actually through the WSDL or through the sample RR pair, you actually generate the data and then generate those RR pair and the virtual service component based on those new APIs and inject back into virtual service. So that's one aspect. And then from a test coverage perspective, you want to have enough set of coverage in your virtual service. So that means through this mechanism linked with the test case optimizer, you can actually figure out what are the different permutations, and you can generate some data. And using that generated data of all the permutations and through the TDM and SV integration, you can actually push that into virtual services as well and have a better coverage. And then the last part, which is the synchronization, and we just talked about, is basically synchronization of the data across your test case, your virtual services, and your test database. Let me move next. This is just an example here that, especially from a synchronization perspective, is, let's say submit order is basically one of the test cases you want to run, and there is a happy path, there is an unhappy path, and you want to make sure that some of those virtual services, in this particular case, the inventory service and the credit card service, has the right data or RR pairs, which actually are consistent with the test database you have as well. So in this case, using the data test data CA test data test data manager, what we are doing is we are actually publishing and pushing not only the test data into the test cases, but also to the virtual services. And if any synthetic data or data needs to be resolved inside your test database, you're actually doing that as well. And so that actually gives you an overview of what we have built so far. But now let's move on to a demonstration. I'm going to pass it on to Prashant. Prashant, I'm making you presenter. Prashant, I don't know if you're on mute or.
Can you hear me, Arif?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you. All right, perfect. You're sharing.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. Well, good morning and good evening, everyone. So, to continue on the discussion what Arif just explained, I'm going to do basically the demonstration of all the things that Arif has just explained. So what I'm going to do is quickly run through the 3 important features that Arif just spoke about, and then I'll show you how things work. So let's start with the example. The TDM shredder is nothing but is built to support especially the non-relational database types, for example, XML, XSD, JSON, WSDL, and things like that, which uses the powerful data generation, synthetic data generation technique, which is already built in TDM, but that is limited to only database tables. So TDM Shredder adds on the capability of converting these files in any format of XML, XSD into the relational database, and then lets you perform the synthetic data generation and then convert them back to the source files. So I'll start with a simple example that you're all familiar with, the purchase order. What you see here in front of my screen is a purchase order sample where it has got a simple purchase order with a ship to address, a bill to address, and an item being purchased, and it has got the ship date and things like that. So what if your need is to generate multiple of such files, multiple of this file for synthetic data generation. So what we do is we have built a command line utility called TDM Shredder, which if you have installed 3.2.1 latest the TDM, you would see in SQL and program files, grid tools, you would see a folder called TDM Shredder, which looks like this. And it has got a batch file called TDM Shredder, which lets you perform some of the operations. So what the conf file consists of is a properties file where you need to configure, there's something called CA TDM Shredder properties, in which you generally configure the database which you are going to connect to, which is nothing but a target DB, the name of it, the username, password, where the tables will be shredded and things like that, and some other parameters which we're gonna discuss during the demonstration. So what I'm going to do is I'll open the command line. So the command line is opened on the TDM Shredder. Then in the TDM Shredder bat, the first thing that I do is I am going to add a project. So project lets you create a TDM Shredder project. Don't get confused with TDM actual project, wherein your shredding work will be organized in this project. So for example, I'm going to add a project by a project name, something like XML-XSD1. So this is my project name. So second, yeah. Okay. So first thing that we need to do is define a database in which you are going to thread. For example, if you have a SQL server, I'm going to create a new database for our demonstration purpose, XSD1, because I already have an XML as an XSD. I'm going to create, and then when I come back, I'm going to thread into this particular database. So what you need to define in this properties file is the database you just created in which the tables are going to be threaded. So this particular project, I'm going to create now something called XML-XSD1 will be created. And once this particular project is created, I'm going to take the schema and then thread into set of tables. You see that this project is created. So once this project is created, I'm going to use this particular project name, XML XSD1, and then what I'll do is something called XSD to DB schema. See, here is the thing. Sometimes what happens is you would be having a schema but related to this particular XML on which this XML is derived from, and sometimes you may not have. So, but for the example that what I'm saying, I do think that I have an XSD. So, if there is an XSD, your results will be appropriate, and then you would have more control over how to generate data. If you do not have XSD, there is a mechanism in which TDM Shredder, will guess the XSD from a given XML, and then it will shred the tables. So in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm taking this XSD, which is nothing but the XML you just have seen, the schema for the same, and then I'm going to pass to it If you see, I used the project name and which I just created, and then I'm trying to shred my XSD into this project. So this project is being configured to use a DB which you have just seen called XML-XSD1, which we have created in front of you. So if you see inside this, the set of tables that you see, so there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables created. So the XML now schema has been translated to 5 tables. So this is the first step that you see here. And the next thing that I would try to do is, I will try to import sample data, because to write rules, generation rules, you would need a sample data, how each column looks like, what data it holds. So the next operation what we support is, again in the same project context, once you shred, you generally run a command called import XML data, and then you would pass an XML to this. So the same sample XML which I showed you, I'm passing the same sample XML. Once you do this, the data will be imported. So this is conversion from your XML file to relational tables. Now I'm going to use the synthetic data generation capability of DM. So what I'm going to do is I'll just create a new project for demonstration, something called XML-XSD1, which define a version 1. I know some of you are familiar and some of you are not familiar. This is the data maker in which a project is created for data generation and multiple other purposes. And then what you do is you're going to create a data group, data set, and data pool. So data pool is the actual placeholder in which you would write rules about data generation. Once this is there, I'm going to register my tables from XML XSD1. So how do I register? I need to connect to that particular database. So data maker needs to establish a connection to that one. For that reason, what I'm doing is I'm connecting to that particular database. So I'm calling this profile as. So you would understand once you go through data maker training that if to connect to any DB, you need to create a profile, and which can be established as a target. If you test this, you would see the connection details, and then this is stored, and I am now stand connected. Once you stand connected, you can register the tables that are part of this particular database we just created. If you see, the tables are 5. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to hit enter. So what it will do is it's going to register. There's some accelerator that we have done. It detects if it is a shredder table, it's going to perform some of that things like importing the data into repository automatically, which otherwise, you have to manually import into repository. The data we just imported, just to remind you, is lying here. This is called target DB, but what we just importing is into the repository, which is nothing but the GT repository. So I'm going to import the data automatically. So once this is there, right, I go back, and then what I do is I click on this, and then I start writing data generation rules. And once data generation rules are there, I will publish it to how many ever records I want. So before this demonstration started, for this purpose, I have created a project called XML-XSD. So I'll just show you how a typical publish would happen. The same 5 tables that I have shown you. What I've done is instead of the values that I imported, I changed it, let's say country to be a random value, street to be a random US address, random city, Jeep, and then items also. If you see random car parts, I'm generating name and then quantity. Everything is random. Now, once I did this, write these rules, this is the technique that you need to learn for generation. This is the inbuilt technique of data maker. And then once this is there, you can use the publish to data target. What this will do is, okay, I need to change to a different target. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to publish, make it 10 records of similar. And what I'm trying to do here is item, if you see, I'm independently repeating this particular table repeat count between a rand range of 3 to 8. So what I'm trying to do here is, I would want 10 records of this in which, if you see the XML here, in which my data may not look like this exactly. So I may want my item to be anywhere between 3 to 9 items in each of the file. I just don't want to stick. And now when I generate, you will see the name, streets, everything different. My items also will be different. The item count is also different. So it gives you flexibility. So I'm going to generate 10 records of this, and I'd go delete if I have anything already. I might be having some in XML XST already. So maybe I have some already. But let's see, okay. All right, so 10 rows are inserted, and 53 is a random number because this is an item. It could be 3 for some, 2 for some, 6 for some. It is a random number between 3 to 9. Once this is done, okay, and again you can come back to Shredder, okay. Again you can come back to the Shredder and then you try to export. And for the demonstration, as I said, I created this publish and rules everything inside another DB, which is XSD. So now I'll switch back. In general, you would be dealing with one database because I'm demoing in multiple and changing in between. So what I'm going to do is I'm trying to run export. Before I'll try to run export, I'll just show you how many records I have inside my purchase order. Let me just query this. So I have, close to around 21 records inside my export. So I'm going to run an export. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my project to project that I created earlier. Project 1-XSD. And then I will opt for export XML data. So the export takes close to 30 seconds, and then you would see all the 21 records would be exported into a location of projects. Okay. As I speak, you would see I'll just open 3 or 4 of them just to see. So there is one item here. There are 7 items here. And you would see the names of this. Everything else is, changed. So I'm taking one sample XML and I'm able to construct 20 similar XMLs, but not same, which can adhere to the XSD that I've used for shredding. So this is the important capability of TDM Shredder that we have built. As I said, if I take TDM Shredder and I create another project, I would be able to shred an XML itself if you do not have XSD. Will it create same set of tables? May not, because it is purely guesswork. We don't know how, but it will still allow you to write rules and export the XML in a way that the XML is being produced. In the interest of time, I'm not going to do XML, but you can browse, you can hit tdmshredder.bat. It will show you all the options related to XSD, and then we have a pretty good documentation on Wiki available on how to use Shredder, what are different various options that are available. Now I quickly jump to, similar to XML XSD, we have also support to the JSON format. So the JSON format, apart from the options, names changing, everything else remains same. So I do not want to create another project to take a sample JSON, shred it, and then convert into tables, and then write data generation rules, export back, and construct another JSON. So what I do is instead I just try to show you a project that I've created in TM and then do a quick publish and export. So if you see a JSON project, I've just created a, if you see this is the JSON file, yeah. The same purchase order I took because it's easier and simple to refer and simple to understand everyone. It's a purchase order. It also has got ship to, bill to, and it also has got items with 2 items here that you would see, and it's this is the data file. There is no schema file for it, so you can simply pass this data file, and it would generate the schema corresponding to this particular JSON file. And once that is done, if I open the data pool of this, a similar set of tables, are created, and you would see, and again, you will go start writing rules, to this one in this project, add into this. But if you have not written rules, I simply, I can write rules and I can publish it, but I simply try to export what I have. Maybe one record I have, I'll try to export it, and then I'll see the same JSON what I imported would come out, or I would rather generate more data and come out. So what changes between XML and JSON is the support is same, but the options that you would import XML data would become an import JSON data. Export XML data would become export JSON data. So that's how it is. I'm not going to demo JSON more. So these are the options: export JSON data and exported JSON data will look like the one that you have given as an input.
Yeah, so Prashant, one thing I want to add is that you showed the ability to actually generate data here, but one other good value proposition here is that you can actually import. So let's say you have hundreds of XML messages which you are already testing right now, and you want to see how good that coverage is. So you can use the same Shredder process to import all those 100 XMLs which you currently use for testing, and then run a profiling and do a coverage analysis on the data utilizing the tool set we have as part of the Test Data Manager. Figure out the coverage, then you say, okay, these are the missing parts. So then you actually generate data for those things where the coverage is missing, and then generate the XML back for those where you have a missing data or missing XML, right?
Yeah. So yeah, if you can use the same and import XML data, if you see, it will allow you to pass a file or directory. If you have multiple XML files, like hundreds or thousands, you just give them a directory name. It's gonna import everything into the directory and then populate into a DB. And then once you register and then import once you register tables, you would be able to figure out the DB data is available for further analysis, like identifying gaps using visualizer and diagrammer and stuff like that. So that's what Arif just explained. I'll now move on to another important feature that Arif explained in a couple of slides about the virtual services. So virtual services, before going to virtual services, what all file formats we supported, XML, XSD, JSON. We also support WSDL. WSDL, like what we said is you take any operation in a WSDL. For operation, request and response are mandatory. So we can shred the request and response schemas allow you to write rules, generate data, and then again export back as a request response pair. So you do not whether which request corresponds to which response and things like that. So I'll show that capability combined with the virtual service integration capability. So for that purpose, I would take you to the CA's dev test portal, which is otherwise called as CA Lisa and CA Virtual Service. So I'll just get you introduced this product. What it does is given a service that runs in live. For example, I take an example of stock quote. This is a typical web service wherein it is hosted on webservicex.com. When you pass a quote, right, and then send it is going to respond you with some data. Maybe give me a stock. Okay, so some stock code, valid stock code if you give, it is going to respond back with the system that is running, the live system that is running. So what if, this particular system or environment is not available and you would still want to, query and figure out the stock codes. So generally these kind of things would be helpful in testing cases where environments may not be available and you still want to test with a lot of combinations to ensure that system is applicable. That's when the dev test portal will become handy, where the actual service can be virtualized, and then some request and response pairs will be fed into this virtual service, so that your application is routed to the virtual service, and then testing can be performed. So I'll just open dev test portal, and inside this I'm going to virtualize the service. So I'll tell you it's a very simple process. What I'm going to do is in the create, I'm virtualizing via RR pair. So there are multiple options you can virtualize by recording, but I choose to virtualize using RR pair. So the virtual server is one input. I'm going to input the service name. My service name is stock quote service. So okay, let me see. Sometimes it's not going to refresh. I'll see that my VSC is, okay, it's deleted. And I'm creating using virtual stock code service, and then there is a service group VSEZ, and then what I need to give him is an input of a request and a response file. So a sample request and response file. So a sample request and response file I already saved for the demonstration purpose. This is a sample response. This is a sample request. Okay, so I think it's not exactly the ones that you give. It can virtualize any service. So I just want a simple request and response. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload these two HTTP request and response files. You can drag and drop as well, and then with that help I can create and deploy. So once it is deployed, I'll get a location on which this virtual service is deployed. So what I'm going to do is I'll let instead of the real service, I am calling now the virtual service. So the virtual service is deployed. I'm going to call, and I am trying to call with a quote HMSY or something. It is saying it is not found. Let's see how when we enhance this particular virtual service by feeding more data, by combining the capability of TDM Shredder and how its internal integration helps you to leverage, achieve this particular functionality. So what I'm going to do is once I know there is a service up and running which has got limited or no data, what I do is first I provided an inbuilt integration between TDM and Lisa. So I go to the same Shredder properties file, and we have a defined section as to where is your dev test server running, on which port, what protocol it is running, username, password, the VSE, the virtual service, that you wanted to connect to. If once this configuration is done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a project just like the way I did for XML XSD. That won't change. So I'm adding a project name, add project with a project name. Probably this time, I think I'll leave it. Okay, I call JSON one. So the project is created. While this is being created, in fact, I think I need to change the DB. Okay, we used a different DB in the past for demonstration. So I should use a DB called RR pair, which I created for this. So once the is created, what I'm gonna give is the result file. Okay, so I didn't change the DB. So once that is done, so once a project is created, what we're gonna do is we're gonna import, we're gonna shred a visual file through the schema where the schema is available, and then we will get both the request and response tables shredded. So once this request and response table is shredded, it is going to look like this, similar to what we have seen for an XML and XSD. You see something called RR pair here. If I open the data pool here, these are the tables that it would create. A typical, web service request and response. So, but here the thing is, you would have both the set of tables, a set of tables for request and set of tables for responses. You would try to generate rules, generally all primary keys, and the foreign key relationships will be automatically done by DM. There are two options which will do that. And the catch here is there is a route for request and there is a route for response. So how each request is paired with a response. So a request, for example, there is a column called RR pair link ID, which is created specifically to link and request and response. The next means every time you publish, it is going to generate a next value, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. If I go in my response, I am pointing my response to, I am pointing to a request RR pair link ID. That is the syntax that you would see. So in every publish, whatever value that the request route has got, give the same value to the route. So when I export, right, I will combine the records of link ID, which link ID are same. So that's how a request and response are mapped. So when I export, it exports as in pairs. So that's how it does it. And then what I do is once that is done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate or publish more data. So for before demonstration, right, I have created some data. If you see my RR pair request code, let's say, I'm going to query and see it has got some 10 rows. These are the codes that you would see. And if I see the response code, it also shows some responses. for the first 10 values. These are the responses that it is showing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the data here and regenerate and then export this data back to Lisa, and then I'll query the web service. That's when the demonstration completes. So I'm going to delete from let's say a request. So 10 rows are affected. Once I deleted my 10 rows from the request, I'm also deleting 10 rows from response. Okay, so my request and response got deleted. If I delete from the root, generally all the data gets deleted. Okay, so I have 0 rows. You can query and see. Now what I'm going to do is something happened to this. I'm going to rerun this. Okay, minus project name. Project name that I've created is project 3-RR pair. Export RR pair. If you do export RR pair, all the data that you would generate would be exported. Okay, let me just publish it. Sorry. So what I'm going to do is, okay, this is one thing that you need to be careful if you are working with multiple projects and multiple DBs. Every time you want to publish, you should change to appropriate database as a target. Once you set as a target, you can go and happily publish to that because the schema should match. So what I'm doing is I'm just publishing 10 such rows immediately, and it will publish immediately. And you would see 10 rows being inserted. Yeah, 10 rows being inserted. You can go back also and query this get code. Yeah, you would see some 10 sample codes are inserted here. Once I got this data, and I can export RR pair as a files. So this will give you files, but our intention is to export them directly back into the service, right? So update virtual service. So you know where it updates? It updates to the configured value here, which the service that I just prepared, will have this data fed. So if I do this, within some time, the data should be updated to the virtual service that is running. It takes roughly 30 to 40 seconds again.
Prashant, the difference between this and the other one was that it was keeping the RR pair into the local directory, while now this is actually going a next step of basically pushing it to the running virtual service.
That's correct, Arif. If you don't give update virtual service, generally it keeps in the local projects directory, which you can use it for other purposes. But because I did an update service, now you would see that the service got updated. So how do you ensure that the service got updated with the generated? So here is how you see. Now I take this picture RAM any code, for example EAS, EAC or TRS, and then go to your request, and this is a virtual service we just deployed. So and then your virtual service start responding with the value that you have fed, right? Yeah, it starts responding. For example, if you wanted a code for XYZ, anything. So it will start responding because there is this concept of magic string and other stuff, which I would encourage you to learn how virtual service works and how it start responding once you start feeding the data. That is the demonstration that I wanted to do with XML, XSD, JSON, visual file, and especially integration with the virtual service. The TTM threader, that is the command line utility built combined with the powerful capability of data generation would achieve this particular feature that Arif just talked about.
Thank you, Prashant. Thank you, Prashant. So we have only 5 minutes, and Rama is going to quickly show the Rally integration as well. Rama, can you take it over?
Yes, please. Are you able to hear me, Arif?
Yes. Thanks, Rama.
Great.
Len, can you make Rama?
Prashant, can you make me presenter?
Yeah.
Got it. Oh.
Okay, Rama, you can present.
Yes, please.
You can share.
Hope everyone is able to see my screen. Hello, everyone. I would like to quickly give a demonstration of the integration that is available between Rally, that is Agile, CA Agile Central, and T-Dot. As a test engineer, one of the major activities that I would like to perform when we write the test case is also to identify the right set of data for me to continue with my testing. So if we are using Rally Rally as the test case management tool, then I can actually achieve test match or ring fencing by using the integration that has been provided here. So on the screen, we can see the project workspace Rally integration where I have landed after logging in as a test engineer. Then I would actually navigate to my test cases, and I would like to actually use this test case and reserve data so that I can use the test data for my testing. So there are two buttons here which are available for us to first provide the requirement, that is connection to the TCDC on the data maker. And then provide the test match requirement. So this is the project which I would like to work with. And the flow is already created on AGD and exposed to T-Dot. I would like to say yes. I would like to have the request sent to TCDC. This is the test condition for which I would like to set the connectivity and then also have the test resolution done, test data resolution done. Then I would also like to have an email notification sent to the test engineer with the details of the test data result. So we can see that a group job has been submitted to establish the connectivity as well as have the test match request sent. I can actually look at the status of the jobs by logging into the system and going through the job inquiry. So as we can see, the group job has been submitted and the next job is triggered. An email notification has been sent with the details of the group job that has been triggered in. So the next step has been completed. The same thing we can actually see in the job log. So essentially, this would help us to reserve the data by using Rally instead of going into T-dot directly. It would take few seconds depending upon the test mat that is available on Data Maker. As we can see, test match is completed. The next step is to send the results back as an attachment to Rally, and that job is in progress. So now the Rally job is also completed. We can actually go back to the test case. And we can see that the test case data result is attached as a file. I don't have Excel on the system. That is the reason why it is opening here. But you can see the data that has been reserved for this particular test case. So this is about the Rally integration that is available for us to work as a test engineer. Arif?
Yep. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rama. We are already above over time, but let me just quickly tell you from a strategic theme perspective, which we are actually focusing on and continue to focus on, 3 areas. Number 1, ease of management. So going forward, you're going to see that a lot of work we are actually doing. And that's where you're going to see the user interfaces changes, the web-based portal, which we are going to develop, or we are actually in the process of developing. That is eventually going to replace the capabilities with the current user interfaces. So, and also when we are doing that, ease of deployment, configuration, and all those things are also being considered. Then ease of adoption is another key area, because what we want to do is a management perspective, you're the center of excellence, the test data management center of excellence. the test data engineers and test data managers to be able to manage the solution and then be able to provide the services to their users who need to adopt, and how to improve the adoption. Basically, the two value proposition, the adopters are your testers and developers, so we would want to be able to, and as you're seeing, actually, we are doing two things mainly. One is basically putting the test data in the hands of the testers and developers in the tool of their choice. That's where you just saw the Rally integration and those kinds of integrations that we are going to continue working towards. And the second aspect is the right data in the right format, so which is where you actually saw the shredder work, which is going to continue, and we're going to make it easier and easier for testers and developers to consume that. So you're going to see a user interface on top of this command line you've seen, actually user interface as well as set of APIs, so that you can actually integrate internally as well. So that's the other aspect from an adoption perspective. And the third aspect from the team perspective is continue to extend the test data management across different applications and data sources. So we're going to look into big data, other cloud applications, and then broaden our database coverage. And consistent masking is one of the major aspects from a test data management perspective as well. So so that's the other part of the enterprise-wide theme, which we actually would continue doing that. So these are the major themes which we would be working through. This is just to give you an idea that this is where we are taking it. So that means your tester developer who are using Service Virtualization, Rally, HP, ALM, any of those tools, the data is available to them right there. And then my test data management team or test data engineers who are the center of excellence, they are actually taking the capabilities of the product and making the services available to their internal tester and developers. And on the left-hand side, you see the more and more production applications brought into this means that more data sources need to be brought in to the picture as well. So here's a very high-level roadmap which we are working towards. So new releases 3.21 is first part of that is actually working towards 3.5, which is where you're going to see actually architectural changes, new user interface, the initial versions of it, and self-service portal update as well with the new version of the user interface we are building around that. So that's you're going to see in 3.5, and then beyond that in 4.0 we are going to keep extending that and providing you the REST APIs so that you can actually integrate with your internal solutions, as well as making it easier with the from a consumption perspective, whether it's a data sources in a mainframe or a distributed side. So that's very high level on that. So we are already over, but if you have any questions, please, I can stay on for a couple of minutes as well. If not, this recording is going to be posted as well for you, and then you can provide your comment and your feedback. It would be appreciated. And I would also encourage, if you can join our validation program, if you want to, please send me a note, and I will actually set you up with our validation program. When?
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. I don't see any questions coming in the Q&A or the chat, so I think we should wrap up.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.